Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is a novel written by Jane Austen and published in 1813. Set in 19th century England, it tells the story of the Bennet family, specifically the second eldest daughter, Elizabeth Bennet, and her complicated relationship with the wealthy and proud Mr. Darcy. The novel begins with Mr. Bingley, a wealthy gentleman, moving into the nearby Netherfield estate, much to the excitement of the Bennet family, who hope that one of their daughters will marry him. At a local ball, Mr. Bingley is instantly taken with Jane Bennet, the eldest daughter, and begins to court her. Meanwhile, Elizabeth meets Mr. Darcy, Mr. Bingley's friend, and is immediately put off by his prideful demeanor and snobbish comments. Mr. Darcy is similarly unimpressed with Elizabeth and her family, whom he considers beneath him socially. As the story progresses, Elizabeth's dislike of Mr. Darcy only grows, especially after he interferes with the courtship between Mr. Bingley and Jane. She also becomes more acquainted with Mr. Wickham, a charming young man who has a long-standing grudge against Mr. Darcy. Wickham tells Elizabeth a shocking story about Mr. Darcy, which only further cements her negative opinion of him. Despite this, Mr. Darcy finds himself increasingly drawn to Elizabeth and begins to show signs of affection towards her. However, his attempts to express his feelings are clumsy and awkward, leading Elizabeth to believe that he still holds her in contempt. It isn't until Mr. Darcy writes a letter explaining his actions and motivations that Elizabeth begins to see him in a different light. The situation becomes more complicated when Mr. Darcy proposes to Elizabeth, believing that his feelings for her outweigh his reservations about her lower social status. Elizabeth is shocked and offended by the proposal, seeing it as a mere formality and not a true expression of love. She rejects him and accuses him of interfering with Jane and Mr. Bingley's courtship. Following this rejection, Elizabeth's feelings towards Mr. Darcy begin to soften as she reflects on his actions and the reasons behind them. Meanwhile, the Bennet family is thrown into disarray when Lydia, the youngest daughter, elopes with Mr. Wickham. The family fears that this scandal will ruin their reputation and prospects for marriage, but Mr. Darcy intervenes and helps to resolve the situation. In the end, Mr. Bingley proposes to Jane, and Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy confess their love for each other and become engaged. The novel ends with the happy prospect of two successful marriages, but also with the sense that social class and status continue to play a significant role in determining one's fate in society. Overall, Pride and Prejudice is a timeless classic that explores the themes of love, social class, and the importance of first impressions.